Hi, my name is Janice Graham, and I'm a licensed marriage family therapist. And I'm here with this wonderful woman I've known for several years. And we've been on this journey together for how many years?
4 years next
4 years. And her name is Ashlei McAtee. And I'm going to have her introduce herself to you. And then we're going to visit about what this journey's been like together, the two of us.
Thanks, Janice. So yes, my name's Ashlei, and Janice and I met as I was at one of the lowest points in my life. I entered into a trauma recovery center, and I really had no idea what codependency was. And if any of you have ever met Janice, she just walks with a certain sense of groundedness that really appealed to me. And when she said to me that she specialized in codependency, I really had no idea what that meant. And I certainly didn't think I was a codependent. I mean, I think that might, say a lot. But also I just thought, okay, if Janice is somebody that walks in her truth and is somebody who says that she has struggled with codependency and has helped me as much as she has so far, I'm willing to take this journey with you. And for 4 years, I have been honored and grateful beyond belief to learn more and grow more in myself, and really just to identify and become aware of the codependent behaviors that were so pervasive in my life.
Yeah, I mean, we've been on the journey together because as Ashlei was saying, I struggle, and that's why I do this, because it keeps me connected to myself and aware of how pervasive and invasive the codependency can be and is. And I have done this work now for several years and still do the work. So I just want everybody to know, as Ashlei will also affirm, that it's not a destination. It is a journey. And, I love and am passionate, as you guys know, about this, to try to empower women so that we break the cycle of what captures us and holds us prisoner. You know what I mean?
I do. I really do. And I think, when I think back, as we were just kind of reminiscing of when I didn't know anything about codependency,
Right.
I think what I would have probably thought then too was like, oh, well, what's wrong with that? So you have a partner, and I was married at the
Yes.
time, and I probably would not have realized that there was anything wrong with it at the time. And I think that the practice for me is, and I've listened to a little bit about the other podcasts and the other YouTube videos, and it really is a journey towards self-love, and
Yes.
that's what I have really become more familiar with and learned through time, is this self-love concept is so vague. And I heard you mention that with Liz.
Right.
And it's really a pathway to help you to kind of untangle what that means.
Yes.
And just shed some of that conditioning that we get throughout our lives.
I love that, because we grow up, unfortunately, not knowing how to love ourselves. In fact, we know how to devalue ourselves, demean ourselves, have the wah-wah voice that's constantly chirping at us, instead of connecting to our heart and our sense of self-love. And the coolest part about all of this journey is it is about connecting to our feelings, connecting to our spirit, connecting to what serves us, what has value to us, what keeps us on the path. And so many people get confused, I think, are confused about that codependency is just in regard to relationships, where the core of it is lack of relationship with self.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the crux, is how do we as a collective help each other find that path to ourselves, so that we are free, we are balanced, we are compassionate, self-compassion, a sense of well-being, mental health, all of it is interwoven on this path. Don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's no wonder that we are confused about what love or codependency would, means. And we immediately assume it's a relationship because of the society that we live in and the way that we are conditioned to think about love. And it's really, I think, externalized so much in our society. Like, in order to be loved, you have to look or do or act or all of these conditions.
Right.
And I think what codependency has really allowed me to do is to understand that, maybe that fantasy of love that I have been told all my life is just a small, tiny, and maybe unrealistic part of what love can be. And through this practice, it's not a turn on the lights, I love myself kind of thing. It's a daily awareness, affection, and really strong determination to know myself and to be authentic.
And I love that. That's my favorite word, authentic. I do. I feel like my journey is to be authentic, which includes being mindful, connected, self-love, spiritual, mind, body, spirit. It's all a way of being able to present wherever you are in any situation who you really are. And that's a struggle at first, but it is a path, and it is certainly accessible, and we can do it collectively, because the whole love, what is love? I mean, it's bigger than having any conversation about it. But to me, love is loving. Are we acting in a loving way? Are we treating ourselves in a loving way? Are we honoring ourselves in a loving way? Is somebody else doing the same thing? Are they acting according to a loving way, a process? Because at least that's something you can grab hold of and have an experience with than just the concept of love, which is, like when we were little, it was Disney, or it was the fantasy, the picket fence, happily ever after. And so that's all external. And the coolest thing about all of this is that the journey's inside. That's where the picket fence is, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. No, and I think you're right. I think very much so that fantasy, it can be conditioned in so many ways. It becomes your identity. In my case, I was very much identified with what I could achieve, and very much conditioned to think that love came if I was able to produce something or get attention for, accolades, or, that type of validation. And so you're absolutely right. I think really peeling back those conditioned experiences that make you feel like this is the way you need to be, does bring you back to your authentic self.
Yes.
And, it's the crux of it is to love yourself. And I think that is exactly as you've described. It's so vague, and it is not because you want to be vain and love yourself, but ultimately it is the only path to loving others.
Right. It is. If, we can imagine loving somebody else, and that's the core of love, but we forget about us in that process unless you've done the work to find yourself. And then it becomes more like a partnership of balance and respect and appreciation, but first, if you don't have that with yourself, it's I'm going to say it's impossible to have it with somebody else. I do. I just feel like we fantasize about finding happily ever after, and that's in here. I've said it a million times in a million different ways that the journey is the spirit, your heart, your knowing, your intuition, the connection to self, and that will guide you. It's the only thing that keeps us safe and secure. Anything out there keeps us in a fantasy and an illusion and delusion.
And from my experience, I mean, I can say from my experience in that delusion, it's not that you are unaware that you are unhappy, perhaps, or that you are stressed, perhaps, but it manifests itself as anxiousness, overworking, addictions, maybe
Right.
you try to numb that feeling
Yes.
and calm down those, never really satiated, what's the word, it's the ones that you can't really calm any
Yes.
other way but from within.
Yes.
And so we look for all of these external ways to try to fix that. And in relationships, I think it is so easy, and it was in my case, to mistake that if you can build a relationship. For example, I, was mistaken in the idea that if I would give enough love, that eventually that would validate. I would feel loved. I would feel like, okay, I am doing the right thing. I'm loving this person. I'm helping them. I'm supporting them. And
Right.
ultimately, what ends up happening is just through time, it's not helping you and it's not helping them. And I've unfortunately realized that in hindsight, I think loving yourself, it seemed like at the time, like it was superfluous, like it was something I didn't have time for,
Right.
or that it was going to be extra in my life. And
Right.
when I had time, I would take the time for myself and I would really get to know what I truly loved and why, what my purpose was. But yeah, and I think in a very sad and mysterious, like, sneaky way, you lose sight of who you are.
You do. And to me, the core of that goes back to the core of the original wound. We don't feel worthy. We don't value ourselves. We don't even know how to value ourselves because we don't feel worthy of love. That's why we want to, perform or be the best or whatever way that you feel worthy of achieving love, getting love, holding love. And all of those are external forces that are not sustainable, and they're not the way to feed yourself and nurture yourself.
Yeah, when you were just talking, I was thinking about like kind of how I used, and maybe this is how it's conditioned in our society, love like a
Right.
currency. If I
Right.
do this, then I will get. But now I've
Right.
learned that love is like my birthright, that
Right.
I am love,
Yes.
that I am deserving of all the love the universe has to offer, as much as every being is. And if I don't protect that, who will?
Exactly.
And I think in order to be my most authentic self on this planet, that's my path, that's my journey. That's what I strive to do each day, right? Is to really just show up authentically. And
I love that word. Don't you love that
I
word?
love it so much. And I think that's one of the things that really comes to mind when I think of the first time I met you and how
Right.
you carry yourself and walk in your path is with such a profound amount of palatable authenticity that it is very, very appealing and I think inspiring.
Well, thank you. Well, that's very thoughtful and nice. Thank you so much. It's just the work, though, because each and all of us, if we support each other, do this work, we become the examples of authenticity and self-love, and then spread the love because then we have it to give. When we are out trying to find it, we don't have it to give. It's the opposite effect, because then something happens and we don't feel worthy or we have to do something else to achieve it. And it keeps us from the essence of who we really are, which exactly what you said, Ashley, it's our birthright. We came into this world perfect essence, lovely beings, and then we get distracted and kind of waylaid and separate. Anyway,
do.
do you have anything else? I just love this kind of forum to
Yeah, no, I
do.
think this is beautiful. And I think that last thing you said just reminded me of one other thing I do want to share. And I think that is that the community of women, in my case, because I am in a women's group, has absolutely been so vital to my recovery from codependency, because it's pervasive in the sense that you could be walking in a path of codependency and really blind to it.
Yes.
Because it's so conditioned into our behaviors. And so one of the things that I think is just so beautiful is being able to share with others who are willing to explore their own relationship with codependency in a very open and honest way. And that is just, I mean, it's magic, and it's critical. It has been very critical to my journey. And that's why I just am so grateful and inspired by Janice, who's doing this for more women and other
Well,
people.
we're all doing it.
As we do this together.
We
for
do it
other
together.
Women
It is. It's like, if the more we all engage and support each other, the more we're going to have an abundance. And I like the word more as well. We'll have more of us, which really ultimately is abundant. And I hope you enjoyed this. I so appreciate you, Ashlei, for coming and sharing this moment with us and you. And I hope you'll join us again.
Thank you so much, Janice. Thanks, everyone.